When they push you, you want to push back. When they disrespect you, you want to prove your power. That's exactly how they win. Because real power doesn't react, it observes. Real control doesn't fight, it waits. The world is loud. Everyone's performing. Everyone's desperate to be seen. But silence terrifies them. In this book, you'll learn the art of restraint, the kind of power that doesn't flinch, doesn't beg, doesn't break. Because when you do nothing while they lose control, you win everything. Chapter 1. Stop reacting, start ruling. Every reaction gives away control. Every time you snap, argue, or explain, you trade power for validation. And you don't even realize it. Every reaction is a transaction. You're paying in peace. You're spending your calm. You think you're defending your pride, but you're really funding someone else's control. That's the truth. You have a choice. You can live like everyone else, reacting, venting, and explaining yourself to people who don't matter. Or you can choose restraint. You can choose mastery. You can choose to rule your emotions before they rule you. That's the key. Look around you. Everyone's addicted to reaction. Someone says something disrespectful online, they type a paragraph back. Someone cuts them off in traffic, they lose an entire day of peace over a 5-second moment. Someone gives them a look, they start rehearsing comebacks in their head. Weak people live in constant reaction. Strong people live in control. You can't be powerful if you're predictable. And you're predictable when you react. They know how to push you. They know which words trigger you. They know exactly how to make you fold. That's how they win, by pulling your emotional strings while you think you're standing up for yourself. But listen, you don't need to stand up for yourself every time. Sometimes you stand above it. Silence isn't weakness. It's strategy. Restraint isn't surrender. It's dominance. When you stop reacting, you start ruling. Every reaction is a leak in your power. It doesn't matter how intelligent you are, how hard you work, or how much you achieve. If anyone can provoke you, you're not in control. You're a puppet. The goal is emotional independence. That means no one can buy your anger. No one can rent your focus. No one can steal your energy. You become your own source of power. You must learn to observe instead of respond. You watch. You study. You collect information instead of wasting energy. You think before you speak. You pause before you move. You breathe before you react. That pause, that 1 second between impulse and response, is the difference between a slave and a strategist. Remember that. Every great leader, every top performer, every master of self, they all have one thing in common: control. When chaos breaks out, they don't panic. They don't chase. They don't defend. They sit back. They calculate. They decide when, where, and if they'll respond. That's what ruling looks like. You think control means domination. It doesn't. Control means you refuse to hand over your emotions like loose change. It means your peace is non-negotiable. It means your energy is reserved for progress, not provocation. You can't build a disciplined life while living in emotional chaos. You can't focus on your purpose if you're constantly distracted by pettiness. Every emotional reaction pulls you out of alignment with your mission. That's why you must train yourself to do the opposite. When someone disrespects you, pause. When life throws chaos at you, pause. When your emotions rise, pause. That pause is your weapon. That pause is your throne. I want you to understand something. Stillness isn't passive. It's power. When you're still, you're not doing nothing. You're choosing not to waste your energy. You're collecting leverage. You're building control. The loudest person in the room usually has the least control. The calmest one, the one who says little, reacts little, reveals little, that's the one who owns the room. Because control commands attention. Stop thinking you have to fight every battle to win. The best warriors know when to stay silent. They let others exhaust themselves emotionally while they preserve their energy for real battles. The ones that matter, the ones that count. So ask yourself, how many times have you lost control over something small? How many times have you destroyed your peace trying to prove a point? How many times have you reacted and regretted it? Every time, you pay the same price, peace. Every reaction is a transaction. You're paying in peace. And when your peace is gone, so is your power. You have to become untouchable. You have to become emotionally bulletproof. That doesn't mean you stop feeling. It means you stop leaking. It means you contain your energy until you decide it's worth using. Here's what you do. Pause first. Before you react, breathe. Observe. Watch the game unfold. Respond later. Not everything deserves your immediate attention. Let time reveal what's real. Rule always. You make the choice. You decide the pace. You own your emotional territory. That's the rule. Pause first. Respond later. Rule always. You want to know how to dominate life? That's it. You control yourself before you control anything else. Because when you own your reaction, you own your reality. Let them talk. Let them provoke. Let them expose their lack of discipline. While they're losing their balance, you're building yours. While they're screaming, you're studying. While they're impulsive, you're intentional. That's what separates amateurs from masters. The amateur reacts. The master rules. And ruling yourself will always be harder and more powerful than trying to rule anyone else. So here's the challenge. Stop letting your emotions lead the way. Stop thinking every slight needs a response. Start practicing the pause. Start observing the storm instead of becoming it. Start choosing peace like it's the most valuable currency you own, because it is. The more you practice it, the stronger it gets. That pause becomes your power. That calm becomes your command. That discipline becomes your edge. You don't need their apology. You don't need their validation. You don't even need their understanding. You only need control. Control of your mind. Control of your emotions. Control of your energy. Because when you control those three, you control your life. You stop reacting, and you start ruling. You've taken the first step toward real power, emotional dominance. But control doesn't stop here. Now that you've learned not to give away your peace, it's time to understand why people want it so badly. Because every manipulator, every critic, every enemy, they all want one thing: your energy. That's where we go next. You've learned to stop reacting. Now, let's expose the ones trying to provoke you. Chapter 2. The enemy wants your energy. Every time you react, someone profits. Every time you lose control, someone gains control. Every time you give attention to the unworthy, you feed the manipulator. That's the game. And most people don't even know they're playing it. The enemy doesn't want your money. They want your energy. Because once they have your energy, they own your mind. And once they own your mind, they own you. That's the truth no one wants to face. Provocation is bait. Your reaction is the hook. They don't need to hit you to hurt you. They just need to trigger you. They just need to make you react. You've seen it everywhere. Someone says something disrespectful at work. You take it personally. You lose your focus for the rest of the day. They've already won. They got your attention. They got your emotion. They got your energy. On social media, someone comments something ignorant. You reply, you argue, you defend. You think you're proving a point. You're not. You're feeding the system. You're giving your focus away for free. Every argument is a transaction. Every outburst is a withdrawal. You think you're fighting back, but you're really funding their control. That's how manipulators win. They don't overpower you. They provoke you. They study your emotions, learn your triggers, and then pull your strings until you dance exactly how they want you to. You have to see it for what it is, psychological warfare. And your emotions are the battlefield. That's the key. You win by not playing. The manipulator thrives on your reaction. They live for it. It gives them purpose. It gives them attention. It gives them control. When you stay calm, you take their oxygen away. When you don't engage, their game collapses. When you remain unbothered, they suffocate in their own noise. That's why silence is so dangerous. It starves your enemies. They want you to rage. They want you to respond. They want to see you flinch, defend, explain. Because the moment you do, they know they own your mind. You have to train yourself to see provocation as bait. It's not about you, it's about control. When you react, you validate their tactic. When you stay composed, you expose their weakness. That's power. In every environment, social media, relationships, workplaces, there are people whose entire strategy depends on your reaction. They'll poke, they'll provoke, they'll push. Why? Because it works. Because you let it work. You've been trained to think reacting means strength. But the truth is, reaction is weakness. Restraint is power. You have a choice. You can keep feeding your energy to manipulators, or you can learn to conserve it for your own mission. It's not about ego. It's about efficiency. It's not about pride. It's about power. That's the shift. Let's be clear. Energy is currency, and most people are bankrupt because they spend it emotionally. They give their focus to gossip. They give their peace to petty people. They give their attention to negativity, and then they wonder why they're exhausted. It's simple. They're spending their power on nonsense. Every time you respond to a hater, you lose energy. Every time you defend your choices, you lose energy. Every time you get pulled into drama, you lose energy. You can't build a powerful life when your energy is constantly leaking. You can't build discipline while living in emotional chaos. You have to become stingy with your focus. You have to protect your peace like it's gold, because it is. Remember this line and burn it into your mind. They win when you react. You win when you conserve. That's the formula. Here's the truth about emotional control. It's not passive. It's not weakness. It's the most aggressive form of power there is. Because when you control your reaction, you control the rhythm of every room you enter. You dictate the energy. You become the center of gravity. People start to orbit around your calm. Because calm people are dangerous. You never know what they're thinking. You never know what they'll do next. And that unpredictability makes them powerful. Your stillness becomes their discomfort. Your silence becomes their fear. Your peace becomes their punishment. You don't need revenge. You don't need the last word. You only need control. That's the game. So, how do you do it? How do you stop feeding the enemy your energy? Step 1. Expect provocation. Don't be surprised when people test your patience. Expect it. Anticipate it. When you know it's coming, it loses power. You see it as a tactic, not a threat. Step 2. Pause before you respond. Every reaction you don't give builds your strength. Every silence you hold builds your dominance. You win by restraint, not reaction. Step 3. Conserve your energy for purpose. Channel your emotion into creation, not confrontation. Let your progress be your punishment. Let your success be your silence. Because nothing disarms an enemy faster than indifference. That's the secret. Not revenge, not rage. Indifference. You want to drive them crazy? Stay calm. Keep building. Don't break. The moment you stop reacting, you change the game. they lose their leverage. They lose their power. They lose access to your mind. You become untouchable because no one can manipulate someone who refuses to play the emotional game. That's the level you need to reach. That's emotional sovereignty. That's mental mastery. You're not here to argue with people beneath your discipline. You're here to rise above them, silently, strategically, relentlessly. They want your energy. Don't give it. They want your focus. Protect it. They want your reaction. Starve them. Because every reaction you don't give makes you stronger. Every silence you choose builds your empire. They win when you react. You win when you conserve. Never forget that. You've now seen how the enemy plays the game. They provoke to control. They bait to feed. But there's one more truth you must understand. The world will never stop testing your emotions. So the question is, how do you make sure you never get pulled into the noise again? That's what's next. You've learned to protect your energy from the enemy. Now, it's time to protect your mind from the world. Chapter 3. Silence is psychological warfare. Silence is not weakness. Silence is strategy. Silence is psychological warfare. Most people think power comes from talking, from explaining, from defending. But real power, unshakable power, comes from stillness and silence. When you stay quiet, you make people question themselves. When you don't react, they start reacting to your calm. When you speak less, they listen more. That's the paradox of power. The loud demand attention. The silent command it. Silence creates uncertainty, and uncertainty is control. When you speak, people analyze your words. When you stay silent, they analyze themselves. They start wondering what you're thinking. They start filling the gap with their own assumptions, fears, and insecurities. They project their chaos onto your calm, and in doing so, they hand you control. That's the game most people never learn to play. You don't win by being the loudest in the room. You win by being the most composed. Because the one who doesn't need to speak to prove their strength already has it. That's the key. Understand this. Silence is not passive. Silence is an active weapon. When you stay silent in an argument, you shift the entire dynamic. You break the rhythm. You disrupt the energy. You force the other person to chase your attention instead of earning it. When you stop feeding chaos with words, it collapses on itself. Think about the last time someone wanted to get under your skin. They said something disrespectful. They expected you to fire back. They wanted the show, the emotional response, the proof they could control your mood. But imagine if you gave them nothing. No expression, no reaction, just silence. They'd crumble. Because silence holds a mirror to their weakness. It shows them their words mean nothing to you. That's not avoidance. That's dominance. You have to learn the art of controlled silence. Not passive silence, the kind that hides fear, but intentional silence, the kind that radiates power. When you're silent by choice, you project strength. When you're silent out of fear, you project insecurity. The difference is control. You have to train yourself to pause before you speak, to think before you respond, to choose words as weapons, not reactions. You have a choice every moment to feed chaos or to starve it, to engage noise or to embody stillness. And here's the truth. Every time you speak without control, you leak power. Every time you respond emotionally, you reveal your weakness. Every time you stay silent intentionally, you reinforce your authority. Speak less. See more. Control everything. In this world, people mistake volume for value. They think shouting makes them strong. They think over-explaining earns respect. It doesn't. The loud are insecure. They talk to convince others because they haven't convinced themselves. The silent don't need to prove anything. They are something. That's why people fear silence. Because silence exposes truth. When you stop speaking, the truth gets loud. The truth about who's really confident. The truth about who's really calm. The truth about who actually controls the room. And it's never the one shouting. In every confrontation, in every disagreement, in every test, you have to remember this rule. The first one to lose control loses power. And control is never loud. Stillness is the ultimate form of strength. Because stillness under pressure means you're not being controlled by the environment. You're controlling it. That's psychological warfare. You're not reacting to their attacks. You're letting them exhaust themselves. You're letting them reveal who they are while you remain unbothered. The person who needs to speak to prove their point already lost it. The person who can stay silent while being misunderstood, that's real control. You don't need to defend your peace. You just need to own it. And silence is how you own it. Here's the problem. Most people fear silence. They rush to fill it. They mistake discomfort for danger. They think if they're not explaining, they're losing. But you're not losing ground. You're claiming it. The world is addicted to noise. Social media, gossip, debate, validation. Everyone's shouting, but no one's thinking. So when you choose silence, you stand out. You become mysterious, magnetic, respected. Because silence signals discipline. It says, I'm not here to prove myself. I'm here to master myself. That's rare, and that's power. Here's how you practice it in the real world. Step 1. Delay your response. When someone provokes you, pause. Count to 5. Let the tension sit in the air. Make them feel it. That pause will tell them more than your words ever could. Step 2. Use silence as observation. Most people listen to reply. You should listen to read. Watch their tone, their eyes, their posture. Silence gives you information that words can't. Step 3. Use silence as reset. When emotions rise, when chaos surrounds you, stop talking. Breathe. Let silence reset your composure. You don't need to win the argument. You need to win your mind. That's the difference between reaction and control. Remember this. Silence speaks louder than anger. Silence carries more power than words ever could. Because silence forces the world to confront itself. Every great leader, every powerful thinker, every mentally tough individual understands this truth. You control nothing if you can't control your voice. And you can't control your voice until you master your silence. The one who talks the least sees the most. The one who listens understands the game. The one who observes, not reacts, always wins. So make this your new standard. Speak less. See more. Control everything. That's the key to commanding respect. That's the foundation of real influence. Don't let the world pull you into its noise. Don't let provocations drain your energy. Your silence is not surrender, it's strategy. Because when they expect noise and you give them nothing, they break themselves trying to reach you. That's how you win. Quietly. Completely. You've now learned that silence is not the absence of power, it is power. It's control disguised as calm. It's strength hidden behind stillness. It's how the disciplined dominate without speaking. But silence is only one part of the equation. You've learned to stay silent when provoked. Now you need to learn to stay still when attacked. Because when chaos surrounds you, your reaction defines you. And in that moment, stillness becomes your armor. You mastered the weapon of silence. Now, let's sharpen the next one. Chapter 4. The power of stillness under attack. Stillness isn't passivity. Stillness is preparation. It's not weakness, it's warfare. You don't stay still because you have nothing to say. You stay still because you're reading the battlefield. Every reaction gives away intelligence. Every movement reveals emotion. But when you're still, when your mind is calm under attack, you become unreadable, untouchable, and that's where your power begins. Be still, be sharp, be unshaken. The world will test you. People will provoke you. Chaos will push against your boundaries, trying to make you fold. That's the game, and most people lose it. They lose at the moment they react. They lose at the moment they get emotional. They lose at the moment they move without strategy. Stillness isn't about doing nothing. It's about doing only what's necessary. It's about waiting for the exact moment when your move means something. It's control disguised as calm. That's the key. Look around. The people who panic, the people who lash out, the people who explode under pressure. Those are the ones controlled by chaos. They think emotion is power. They think volume equals strength. But here's the truth. Emotion clouds precision. Volume destroys vision. The calm mind studies patterns. The reactive mind repeats them. When you stay still, you start to see what others miss. You notice the rhythm of conflict. You see the setups, the manipulations, the emotional traps. You can't see the pattern if you're too busy reacting to the noise. That's why stillness wins. It gives you distance, perspective, control. You don't need to respond instantly. You don't need to move first. You need to move right. That's what the discipline do. Every attack, verbal, emotional, or psychological, is designed for one thing, to make you react. That's how they win. That's how they read you. That's how they steal your energy. They want your movement. They want your outburst. They want your emotion, because emotion exposes your position. But stillness? Stillness makes you invisible. You have a choice. You can be baited, or you can observe. You can react, or you can rule. It's not about avoiding conflict. It's about mastering it. Be still. Be sharp. Be unshaken. Let's be clear. Stillness is not passivity. It's not laziness. It's not indifference. Stillness is discipline. It's self-control under fire. It's the ability to breathe when the world is burning around you. When you practice stillness, you're not giving up power, you're storing it. You're saving it for when it matters. The loud waste energy. The still conserve it. The emotional get drained. The disciplined get stronger. Every second you stay calm under attack, you're training your mind to operate above emotion. And that's the mark of real strength. Because it's not about what happens to you. It's about how you respond to what happens. It's not about chaos. It's about control. That's the key. Let's make it practical. Stillness under attack means this. When someone insults you, you don't respond. You observe. You study tone. You study motive. You study their need for reaction. Because that's where the truth hides, not in their words, but in their intent. When life pressures you, you don't panic, you plan. You take a step back. You look at the board. You find your move. When emotions rise, you don't explode, you exhale. You slow your breathing. You anchor your mind. You choose clarity over chaos. Every situation gives you two doors, reaction or stillness. One drains you. One builds you. You have a choice. That's how the strong separate from the weak. Stillness is the weapon that turns pressure into power. When you're still under attack, your opponent reveals themselves. They start to overextend. They get desperate for a reaction. They expose their weakness. That's when you strike. Not from emotion, but from precision. You see, the reactive person swings wildly. The still person lands one hit, and it's decisive. Because the still mind calculates, while the reactive mind burns energy. The still mind sees opportunity, where the reactive mind sees chaos. The still mind wins because it moves only with purpose. That's mastery. It's not about never feeling emotion. It's about never letting emotion drive the car. Feel it, notice it, but don't act from it. Because when you do, you lose perspective. And when you lose perspective, you lose the game. Stillness is how you reset. Stillness is how you center yourself in the middle of chaos. It's how you remember that you are the constant. Everything else is noise. Be still. Be sharp. Be unshaken. Here's a truth most people never learn. The world moves fast to control you. Speed makes you sloppy. Urgency makes you emotional. But when you slow down, when you operate from stillness, you see what others can't. You start to recognize patterns of manipulation. You start to predict behavior. You start to lead instead of follow. That's not luck. That's discipline. Stillness builds foresight. Stillness sharpens perception. Stillness strengthens reaction time. Because you're no longer reacting, you're deciding. You don't need to chase control. You become control. That's the difference between amateurs and professionals, between reactors and rulers, between chaos and command. So the next time someone tries to get a rise out of you, do nothing. The next time you're under pressure, breathe slower. The next time life tries to corner you, stop moving for a second and watch. You'll see everything you need to know. Stillness doesn't mean you're frozen. It means you're focused. Stillness doesn't mean you're defeated. It means you're deciding. You can't control the storm, but you can control your stance in it. That's what separates the ones who crumble from the ones who conquer. And if you train that, if you can hold your composure under attack, you become untouchable. Not because life gets easier, but because you get calmer. The still mind wins every battle. That's not philosophy. That's survival. Be still. Be sharp. Be unshaken. Stillness is not about what you stop doing. It's about what you start mastering. Your mind, your emotions, your response. Because in the war of noise, the quiet mind commands a field. You've learned to stay calm when others break. You've learned that control is not movement, it's mastery. Now, it's time to take that control even further. Because power doesn't just come from silence or stillness. It comes from identity. When your identity is built on discipline, no attack can shake you. That's where true strength begins. You've built stillness. Now it's time to build self. Chapter 5. Detachment is emotional armor. Detachment isn't cold. It's clarity. It's not distance, it's discipline. When you detach, you stop giving energy to what drains you. You stop being pulled by emotions that aren't serving your purpose. This is what emotional armor looks like. It's invisible, but it's unbreakable. You don't stop caring. You start caring correctly. Care with clarity. Detach with strength. Most people live like emotional puppets, pulled by opinions, controlled by validation. Every look, every word, every rejection, they react. They confuse attachment with connection. They think holding on tight means they care deeply. But here's the truth. When you cling, you lose control. You start building your peace around people who can take it away. You start measuring your worth by how others treat you. That's not love. That's dependency. That's not loyalty. That's fear. You have a choice. You can keep letting the world dictate your emotional state, or you can build one that can't be shaken. That's what detachment does. It builds stability inside you that no external chaos can touch. Let's redefine detachment. Detachment doesn't mean you don't feel. It means you choose how you feel. It doesn't mean you stop loving people. It means you stop losing yourself in them. You can care deeply, but with clarity. You can give love, but with boundaries. Because here's the key. Detachment protects your power. When you're attached to outcomes, you start forcing things. You start chasing validation. You start fearing loss. And fear makes you weak. Fear makes you reactive. But when you detach, you free yourself from the need for control. You stop trying to manage how others act, and you start mastering how you respond. That's emotional freedom. That's emotional strength. Care with clarity. Detach with strength. People mistake emotional detachment for being heartless. They say, "You've changed. You don't care anymore." No, you've just stopped overgiving. You've stopped bleeding energy into people who never earned it. You've stopped letting chaos rent space in your mind for free. That's not cold, it's smart. You've learned that peace is not built on people. It's built on principles. And one of those principles is this: you don't need their permission to protect your peace. You don't need to explain your boundaries. You don't need to justify your silence. Detachment is not an excuse to withdraw from life. It's a decision to live it with power, precision, and presence. You're not ignoring people. You're prioritizing yourself. That's the key. Let's get practical. You'll know you're attached when your emotions depend on how someone else acts. When their approval makes you happy and their rejection breaks you. When their silence feels like punishment. That's attachment. That's emotional slavery. You'll know you're detached when their words stop deciding your mood. When you can care about someone and still walk away if they cross your peace. When you can love without needing constant reassurance. That's freedom. Because you can't control how others treat you. You can only control whether or not it breaks you. You have a choice. Be controlled by emotion or command it. It's not about being unfeeling. It's about being unshakable. Emotional detachment is not numbness. It's awareness. It's knowing the difference between what you can control and what you can't. When you stop trying to fix everything, you stop breaking yourself. When you stop chasing every emotion, you stop losing your direction. You start living with focus. You start conserving energy for what actually matters. That's power. Because the person who controls their attention controls their peace. And the person who controls their peace controls their life. Care with clarity. Detach with strength. Here's the reality. You're going to lose people. You're going to lose opportunities. You're going to lose moments that once defined you. That's life. But detachment keeps you grounded when everything else shifts. Because your identity is not built on what you have. It's built on who you are when it's gone. When you can lose everything and still remain yourself. That's strength. That's emotional mastery. That's what detachment trains you for. Not to stop feeling, but to stop falling apart when things change. It's not about emotion, it's about discipline. You can care deeply and still walk away. You can love fiercely and still protect your boundaries. You can show compassion without letting people cross your peace. That's balance. That's maturity. You can hold space for others without losing space for yourself. You can listen without absorbing their chaos. You can help without carrying their burden. That's the discipline of detachment. It's learning to say, "I see your pain, but I won't drown in it." It's learning to say, "I love you, but I love my peace more." Because if you destroy yourself trying to keep everyone else happy, that's not kindness, that's self-neglect. You can't save anyone by losing yourself. That's the key. Let's make this real world simple. When they insult you, detach. Don't engage. Don't defend. Just observe. When they ghost you, detach. Don't chase closure. Let silence be the answer. When life disappoints you, detach. Don't spiral. Focus on what you can rebuild. Every reaction is a transaction. You're paying with peace, attention, and time. So ask yourself before you respond, is this worth my energy? 9 times out of 10, it's not. You don't need their apology. You don't need their validation. You don't need to prove your worth to anyone who doesn't value it. That's what emotional armor looks like. Care with clarity. Detach with strength. Detachment is how you stop living on emotional autopilot. It's how you step back from the storm and start seeing clearly again. It's how you build a mind that no one can manipulate. And when you master it, something changes inside you. You stop chasing peace and start becoming it. You stop reacting to disrespect and start demanding better silently. You stop clinging to what's gone and start focusing on what's growing. You become untouchable. Because when you can stay centered in chaos, nothing and no one can own you. That's the essence of emotional control. That's the beginning of mental toughness. Care with clarity. Detach with strength. You've learned to stop giving your power away. You've learned that protecting your energy isn't selfish, it's essential. You've learned that love means nothing without boundaries. Now it's time to take that emotional armor and sharpen it even further. Because the next step isn't just attachment, it's elevation. It's turning calm into strategy. It's using silence as a weapon, not a retreat. You've built emotional armor. Now, let's learn how to use it. Chapter 6. Don't explain. Don't defend. Decide. Stop explaining yourself. Stop defending your choices. Start deciding who you are without asking for approval. Because here's the truth. Every time you explain yourself to small minds, you shrink yourself to fit their limitations. Every time you defend your vision to people who don't see it, you waste power. Every time you justify your direction, you step off your path to prove you deserve to walk it. You don't owe them your words. You owe yourself your direction. That's the key. Explaining is what insecure people do. Deciding is what powerful people do. When you explain, you're trying to be understood. When you decide, you're already grounded in understanding. You have a choice. Spend your life convincing people, or spend it creating results that speak for themselves. Most people don't want to understand you. They want to contain you. They want to know why you're different, why you don't conform, why you won't play small with them. But you don't owe them that explanation. Because power doesn't announce, it moves. It acts. It decides. Here's the problem. We've been trained to defend ourselves since childhood. We're told to explain why we made a choice, why we walked away, why we said no. But here's what you must remember. Every explanation is an energy leak. Every defense is a distraction. The moment you start explaining, you've already put yourself on trial. You've accepted the idea that you need their approval to be right. You've accepted their judgment as valid. But they don't know your path. They don't carry your vision. They don't pay your price. You have a choice. Defend your peace or defend your ego. You can't do both. Listen. The higher you climb, the quieter you must become. Because real power doesn't argue, it demonstrates. You don't need to explain your silence. You don't need to explain your success. You don't need to explain your distance. If they misunderstood your growth, that's their limitation, not your problem. Explaining is emotional labor for people who haven't earned your energy. Defending is a waste of momentum on people who've already decided to misunderstand you. You don't owe them your words. You owe yourself your direction. That's the discipline. Let's talk about what happens when you stop explaining. People get uncomfortable. They'll call you cold. They'll say you've changed. Good. You're not meant to stay soft for the comfort of those who never intended to grow. You're not meant to water yourself down for those who refuse to level up. You're meant to move with quiet confidence, not loud insecurity. Because when you stop explaining, you force people to adjust or get left behind. They can't argue with silence. They can't twist your words if you give them none. They can't manipulate what you don't share. That's how you maintain power. It's not about arrogance, it's about awareness. It's not about distance, it's about discipline. You have to know when speaking serves your purpose, and when it only serves your ego. Here's how you live this. When someone questions your decision, pause. Feel the urge to explain, and resist it. Instead, say this to yourself: I decided. That's enough. You don't owe a backstory. You don't owe justification. You don't owe them access to your reasoning. That's the muscle you build. Silence under pressure. Because explaining is a habit of insecurity. It's a reflex born from needing to be liked, to be understood, to be accepted. But when you rise, your energy becomes too valuable for every opinion. You can't be everywhere. You can't convince everyone. So you must decide and keep moving. That's how power looks. Let's get tactical. When you make a big move, change careers, leave a relationship, walk away from drama, there will always be people demanding an explanation. They'll say, what happened? They'll say, you owe us an answer. They'll say, at least tell your side. No, you don't owe them anything. Not your reasoning, not your story, not your emotional labor. Why? Because if they respected your path, they wouldn't question it. You don't owe them your words. You owe yourself your direction. You have to understand how much energy defending costs you. Every defense is time you could spend building. Every explanation is attention you could spend creating. You think you're clearing the air, but you're feeding the noise. You think you're being fair, but you're draining your focus. You don't have to prove yourself. You have to become yourself. You don't have to defend your vision. You have to live it. That's the difference between reacting and deciding. That's the difference between insecurity and leadership. It's not about convincing, it's about committing. When you stop explaining, people start guessing. Let them. Their guesses say more about them than they ever will about you. Let your silence speak for you. Let your results defend you. Let your consistency explain everything that needs explaining. Because that's what the powerful do. They don't debate their direction. They decide and they demonstrate. That's the mindset of a leader. That's the posture of someone who has chosen purpose over validation. You have to decide who you are and then stop explaining it to the world. Because once you start walking in clarity, you realize something powerful. People don't need your explanations, they need your example. That's the key. There's a phrase you need to remember. Decide once, execute daily. That's how you keep your power intact. You make one clear decision, and then you stop reopening it every time someone questions it. When you keep defending your choices, you're reliving the decision over and over again. You're reopening the door you already closed. That's how people lose progress. Not because they didn't decide, but because they didn't stop defending. You don't need their permission. You don't need their approval. You don't even need their understanding. You just need to move. You don't owe them your words. You owe yourself your direction. This is how you build internal authority. You make decisions from principle, not pressure. From clarity, not confusion. And when you do that, something powerful happens. You stop reacting, and you start leading. You stop defending, and you start defining. You stop seeking validation, and you start creating your vision. Because your life doesn't move at the speed of their approval. It moves at the speed of your decision. That's the real secret. Decide, commit, move, repeat. That's the formula. You've learned that explaining is an energy leak. You've learned that defending is a distraction. You've learned that deciding is the real power move. Now you know the rule. You don't owe them your words. You owe yourself your direction. And when you live that way, something inside you hardens in the best way possible. You stop bending. You stop begging. You stop apologizing for being decisive. You become steady, centered, certain. That's what unshakable looks like. You've learned to stand in your decisions with calm authority. Now, it's time to learn what gives those decisions lasting impact. You've mastered silence and stillness. You've built emotional armor. You've stopped explaining and started deciding. Now you learn how to hold the line when the world tests your resolve. You've decided. Now you must remain. Chapter 7. The calm mind builds momentum. You can't build momentum in chaos. You can't grow anything that lasts when your emotions swing like a pendulum. You move, then doubt. You act, then panic. You start, then stop. That's not discipline. That's disorder. The calm mind builds momentum because calm is control. Calm is clarity. Calm is the foundation of consistency. You want power? Then stabilize your state. Because unstable emotions sabotage strong intentions. You can't lead when you're reacting. You can't win when you're chasing feelings. You can't grow when your energy's all over the place. You have a choice. Stay reactive or stay steady. That's the key. Here's what most people never understand. Emotional swings are momentum killers. One day, they're unstoppable. The next, they're unrecognizable. Why? Because they never learned to separate action from emotion. They only move when they feel motivated. They only commit when it feels easy. They only persist when it feels rewarding. But real growth doesn't care about how you feel. Real discipline shows up no matter what mood you're in. That's why the calm mind wins over time. Because it doesn't need emotional permission to move forward. It doesn't stop to analyze every feeling. It just executes. That's how momentum compounds. One calm, consistent step at a time. You've seen it before. The loudest person in the room burns out first. The most emotional leader loses focus fastest. Because energy without direction leads to collapse. It's not about being passionate. It's about being poised. It's not about intensity. It's about stability. The calm mind doesn't waste time in drama. It doesn't get pulled into the chaos of others. It doesn't lose control trying to control everything. It studies. It adapts. It moves deliberately. That's the difference between the reactive and the relentless. One fights everything. The other flows through everything. You don't need to be louder. You need to be steadier. You don't need to move faster. You need to move cleaner. Stable mind. Unshakable life. Let's get real. Emotional swings are self-sabotage in disguise. Every time you let anger dictate your response, you lose ground. Every time you let frustration decide your next step, you break rhythm. Every time you let doubt freeze your movement, you lose the power of momentum. And momentum is everything. Momentum is what separates effort from ease. It's what transforms motion into mastery. But momentum doesn't come from motivation. It comes from mental stability. You build it by showing up calmly, repeatedly, regardless of the noise inside or around you. You keep showing up until calm becomes your default, not your exception. That's the key. When you operate from calm, you become predictable in the best way. People start to trust you. They see that you don't crack under pressure. They see that you don't take the bait. They see that you don't flinch when chaos hits. And that's when people start to follow you. Because people don't follow noise, they follow stability. The calm leader leads longer because they conserve energy. They manage reactions. They make decisions from reason, not emotion. They build trust, not tension. They project certainty, not confusion. You want to lead your life? Then earn your own trust. And you earn that by being emotionally consistent. Day after day, choice after choice. Stable mind. Unshakable life. Let me be clear. Calm isn't weakness. It's not passivity. It's precision. Calm doesn't mean you don't feel. It means you don't fold. It means you acknowledge the storm, but you don't become it. It means you know that your emotions are temporary, but your mission is not. You have a choice every time emotion hits. Feed the storm or focus on the structure. That's the key. When you choose calm, you choose control. You decide how you move, not your mood. You decide what matters, not what triggers. And that choice, repeated daily, builds unbreakable rhythm. Here's how you train it. 3 simple, brutal steps. Step 1. Delay your reaction. When emotion hits, pause. Breathe once. Think twice. Then decide. That pause is your power. It's where chaos loses and composure wins. Step 2. Stick to the plan. Your plan doesn't change just because your emotions did. You made that plan with logic. Don't destroy it with impulse. If you said you'd train, train. If you said you'd focus, focus. If you said you'd execute, execute. You don't need to feel ready. You just need to move steady. Step 3. Review, don't react. At the end of each day, review your emotions like data, not drama. Ask, what triggered me? What pattern do I see? What do I need to strengthen? That's how you grow emotional intelligence, through awareness, not avoidance. That's how calm becomes your default setting. The truth is, most people never develop emotional endurance. They think discipline means forcing motion, but it actually means mastering emotion. Because if you can't stay calm, you can't stay consistent. And if you can't stay consistent, you'll never build momentum. Every great fighter, every great thinker, every great creator shares this trait. Stillness under stress. They don't rush decisions. They don't show frustration. They move like time is on their side, because mentally it is. That's how they win the long game. They know emotions are weather. They pass. But decisions, those are permanent. You have to choose which one you live by. Stable mind, unshakable life. Let's go deeper. When you stay calm, you see things others don't. You notice patterns. You sense shifts. You predict outcomes. While others are consumed by their feelings, you're collecting data. You're reading the room. You're staying one step ahead. That's the advantage calm gives you: vision. You see clearly because you're not blinded by reaction. And that clarity compounds. It becomes focus. Focus becomes execution. Execution becomes results. That's the formula of quiet dominance. You don't need to outwork everyone. You just need to outlast them. And the only people who outlast are the ones who stay calm. Because burnout isn't from doing too much. It's from feeling too much about what you do. You waste energy on overthinking. You drain yourself by emotional overreaction. The calm mind conserves. It directs every drop of energy toward progress, not panic. That's the difference between busy and effective, between effort and excellence. You have a choice. You can live in emotional chaos, or you can live in controlled clarity. Choose calm, because calm creates consistency. Consistency builds confidence. Confidence fuels momentum. That's the cycle that changes your life. So here's your mantra: stable mind, unshakable life. Say it until it becomes your standard. Live it until it becomes your identity. Because when you master calm, you don't just handle pressure, you thrive under it. You don't just survive change, you direct it. You don't just lead others, you lead yourself. The calm mind builds momentum, and once it starts moving, it doesn't stop. That's how power looks when it matures: quiet, steady, unstoppable. You've learned that calm creates control. You've learned that consistency compounds. You've learned that emotional stability is the foundation of momentum. Now it's time to take that calm into the battlefield of daily life, where distractions test your discipline and chaos tests your commitment. You've built the inner rhythm. Now it's time to protect it. Chapter 8: Strategic Withdrawal, the Art of Walking Away. Not every battle deserves your blood. Not every hill is worth dying on, and not every confrontation deserves your presence. Walking away is not weakness. It's wisdom. It's power disguised as silence. It's clarity dressed as restraint. You've been taught to fight for everything, to never back down, to prove them wrong. But here's the truth. Proving yourself to small minds keeps you small. Fighting meaningless wars keeps you broke, tired, and distracted. You have a choice. You can keep reacting to every challenge, every insult, every opinion, or you can choose strategy over ego. That's the key. Let me make this clear. Strategic withdrawal is not about fear. It's not about quitting. It's about conserving your most precious currency, energy. Every decision, every argument, every emotional exchange costs you something. And most people waste that energy defending themselves to people who don't matter. They fight over comments. They fight over validation. They fight for attention that doesn't build anything. But power doesn't chase. Power withdraws. Power decides. When you walk away from something beneath your level, you're not running. You're redirecting. You're reclaiming your focus. You don't need their permission to disengage. You don't need to announce your departure. You just go. Because real strength doesn't scream, "I'm done." It simply disappears and invests elsewhere. Think about it. Every time you engage with nonsense, you lose momentum. Every time you react emotionally, you lose position. Every time you stay in a toxic situation to win, you lose the battle for your peace. It's not about pride. It's about power. It's not about ego. It's about evolution. It's not about being right. It's about being free. Walking away is not surrender, it's strategy. That's your anchor. Every exit is a strategy, not a surrender. The people who mistake your silence for weakness are the same ones who rely on your reaction to feel strong. Stop feeding them. Stop giving them access. Stop letting your emotions become entertainment for others. You have to train yourself to see retreat as movement, not backward, but upward. When you walk away from what drains you, you rise. When you refuse to argue, you ascend. When you let go, you lead. Here's the problem. Most people can't handle detachment because they confuse chaos with purpose. They feel alive when they're fighting. They feel relevant when they're defending. But that's not purpose. That's addiction. Addiction to drama. Addiction to proving. Addiction to control. And addiction kills discipline. Discipline means knowing what deserves your fight and what deserves your silence. Discipline means walking away even when your ego wants revenge. Discipline means protecting your focus like a fortress. You can't build an empire if you're still battling every critic. You can't become unstoppable if you stop for every distraction. Remember this. Not everything that demands your attention deserves it. Some battles exist to delay your growth. Some arguments exist to steal your peace. Some people exist to test your restraint. Your job isn't to fight everything. Your job is to choose wisely. Walking away doesn't mean you don't care. It means you've decided what deserves your care. You've chosen purpose over pride. You can love someone deeply and still walk away from dysfunction. You can value a project and still withdraw when it violates your peace. You can believe in your potential and still abandon the paths that waste it. It's not cold. It's clarity. It's not weakness. It's wisdom. It's not giving up. It's leveling up. Every powerful person you admire understands this law. They don't react to everything. They don't chase validation. They choose silence over spectacle. Distance over drama. Strategy over struggle. Why? Because they understand energy is finite. You only get so much focus, so much drive, so much patience. And every time you waste it on what doesn't matter, you're robbing your mission. You're feeding chaos instead of building consistency. So ask yourself, where is your energy going? Who's getting access to your peace? What are you fighting for that's already costing too much? You have to decide what's worth it. And when it's not, you walk away. Without guilt, without explanation, without hesitation. That's power. When you walk away strategically, the world shifts. Your silence becomes your boundary. Your absence becomes your statement. Your peace becomes your weapon. People start realizing they can't pull you into their games anymore. They can't manipulate your attention. They can't drain your energy. And here's the beauty. When you stop chasing battles, you start attracting opportunities. Because your energy changes. Your focus sharpens. Your time becomes sacred. That's when momentum returns. That's when progress accelerates. That's when life opens up. So here's what you do. Audit your battles. Ask yourself, does this move me forward or just keep me busy? Set emotional limits. Not everyone deserves a response. Not every situation deserves an explanation. Exit with discipline. When you decide to walk away, don't look back. Don't re-engage. Don't justify. Just move. Because the minute you explain your boundaries to those who disrespect them, you've already lost leverage. They don't need your explanation. They need your absence. You have a choice. You can waste your strength proving your worth, or you can protect it building your future. So the next time someone tries to bait you into an argument, remember your strategy. The next time a situation drains your energy, remember your power. The next time your ego screams, don't walk away. Remind yourself of the truth. Every exit is a strategy, not a surrender. You're not running. You're rising. You're not quitting. You're conserving. You're not weak. You're wise. The calm mind sees clearly. The disciplined spirit walks quietly. The powerful person moves intentionally. That's how you win the long game, not through endless battles, but through selective silence. Because, in the end, real power doesn't fight for attention. It fights for alignment. You've mastered silence. You've mastered stillness. Now, it's time to learn the next stage of control, how to command your presence even when you're not in the room. Because influence isn't loud, it's magnetic. And that's where we're going next. Chapter 9. Patience is the ultimate provocation. Patience is power. Not the weak kind that waits while wishing. The strong kind that watches, measures, and moves only when the odds are perfect. Patience is psychological warfare. It confuses impulsive people. It exposes manipulative people. It destroys arrogant people. Because when you don't react, they lose control. And when they lose control, they reveal everything. That's the key. Most people think power comes from force, from moving first, from talking louder, from proving faster. But that's not power. That's insecurity wearing armor. Real power waits. It studies. It observes. It lets the opponent spend their energy revealing their patterns. You have a choice. You can act out of emotion, or you can act from position. You can react to everything, or you can hold your line and watch them fold. That's the difference between amateurs and masters. Amateurs chase outcomes. Masters manipulate time. Patience turns time into your ally. Their impulse becomes your advantage. Because when you stay still long enough, you see what others miss. When you stop chasing instant wins, you start building inevitable ones. Let's be clear. Patience is not passive. It's not lazy. It's not doing nothing. Patience is active restraint. It's strategy in slow motion. It's emotional control disguised as silence. You wait, but you're watching. You pause, but you're planning. You hold, but you're sharpening your blade. That's the discipline most people will never master. the ability to withstand the urge to move until it's time. It's not about weakness. It's about wisdom. Because while they burn out chasing every opportunity, you're positioning for the right one. While they're reacting, you're observing. While they're talking, you're calculating. That's patience. That's control. That's power. Let me give it to you straight. Impatience is emotional leakage. It's your ego demanding results faster than you've earned them. You want progress, but you don't want process. You want success, but you don't want the stillness it requires. That's why most people fail, not because they can't win, but because they can't wait. Waiting feels like weakness to them. But in truth, waiting is the weapon of the disciplined. Because time reveals everything. The fake, the weak, the impulsive, the inconsistent. You don't have to expose them. Their impatience does it for you. When you wait longer, you see deeper. You start noticing who's real and who's restless, who's steady and who's desperate. Patience separates power from noise. Every great warrior, every great leader, every great investor, every great strategist, they all understand one principle. Control the tempo, and you control the outcome. The impatient want to move fast. The powerful decide when the game begins. You don't win by reacting. You win by waiting until the reaction costs them everything. Patience is provocation. The more silent you stay, the louder they get. The more still you are, the more reckless they become. The calmer you remain, the more their mask cracks. They want you to react. They want you emotional. Because emotional people are predictable. And predictable people are easy to defeat. So what do? You stop taking the bait. You let their impulses do your work for you. That's the discipline. That's the art. You don't need their permission to wait. You don't need their approval to slow down. You don't need to explain why you're quiet, why you're patient, why you're not rushing to prove yourself. Because while they chase validation, you're chasing timing. And timing beats talent every single time. The one who moves first often loses. The one who moves right always wins. Your patience is not a delay. It's a setup. It's the coil before the strike. It's the calm before domination. Remember this. The lion doesn't chase everything it sees. It waits. It studies. It calculates. It doesn't move until it's certain. You want to build power? Learn from the lion. Wait longer. See deeper. Strike smarter. That's the anchor. That's your mantra. In a world addicted to urgency, patience is rebellion. Everyone's racing. Everyone's posting. Everyone's reacting. You can't win if you're playing their game. You win when you control the rhythm. So slow it down. Study the patterns. Let the noise burn itself out. You'll notice the impatient always destroy themselves. They rush into deals they don't understand. They chase relationships that don't serve them. They demand results before they've earned them. And while they're burning bridges, you're building fortresses. That's the payoff of patience. Compound results. You may not win first, but you win forever. Because patience compounds just like money. Every disciplined delay adds interest to your future. Every unreacted insult adds strength to your composure. Every silent observation builds your strategic advantage. The calm mind always cashes out big. So what does this look like in real life? It looks like refusing to rush your growth. It looks like letting others talk while you take notes. It looks like saying less and studying more. It looks like giving time a chance to reveal what effort alone can't. When emotions spike, breathe. When pressure builds, pause. When they provoke you, smile. Because you know what they don't. Patience is the ultimate provocation. It disarms the enemy. It amplifies your control. It multiplies your clarity. You don't win by being first. You win by being final. And patience gives you the final move. You have a choice. You can live impulsively or intentionally. You can let others control your reactions, or you can let your silence control them. You can rush and regret, or wait and win. Every second you hold your fire, you sharpen your edge. Every delay builds tension that bends in your favor. So the next time someone tries to pull you into chaos, remember this. You're not here to prove. You're here to position. Wait longer. See deeper. Strike smarter. That's how patience turns from peace to power. You've mastered patience. You've mastered control. Now it's time to weaponize consistency, because it's not enough to move smartly once. You have to do it every day. You learned to wait. Now you'll learn to endure. Chapter 10. The Master of Peace Controls the War. Power isn't loud. It's unbothered. True power doesn't yell. It doesn't demand attention. It doesn't need to prove. Power sits still. Power breathes slow. Power moves only when necessary. The one who controls their peace controls the war. You've been taught that control means domination. That control means being the loudest voice in the room. That control means winning arguments, proving points, showing strength. That's a lie. Because the Real Masters don't need to show control. They are control. They don't chase calm. They embody calm. They don't fight for peace. They radiate peace. When you become the calm in the chaos, everything bends to your rhythm. You dictate the pace. You dictate the tone. You dictate the outcome. That's the key. Let me tell you something that most people never learn. Dominance isn't about force. It's about frequency. You've seen it before. The room gets heated. Voices rise. But one sits still. They're not angry. They're not flustered. They're just there. Calm. Grounded. Watching. And you can feel it. Their energy shifts the entire room. Everyone starts responding to them. Everyone adjusts their tone around them. Everyone unconsciously submits to their calm. That's emotional dominance. That's mastery of peace. It's not about reacting. It's about ruling the space without saying a word. You have a choice. Every time chaos comes, you choose. Be the storm or be the ground beneath it. Be the one reacting or be the one observing. It's not about emotion. It's about discipline. It's not about ego. It's about awareness. You win wars not by being untouchable, but by being unshaken. When you stop chasing control, you become control. You stop trying to manage people. You start mastering yourself. And that's where real power begins, in the silence between your triggers. Here's the truth. Most people never learn emotional control because they're addicted to noise. They think expression equals freedom. They think reacting equals strength. They think chaos equals relevance. They confuse volume with value. But you're different. You're here to be a master, not a victim. So here's what you do. When they provoke you, breathe. When they insult you, smile. When they try to pull you into their drama, pause. Because the moment you don't react, you flip the entire dynamic. Their control dies. Your power grows. Every reaction you don't give, you take back territory in your own mind. Every ounce of peace you protect becomes a weapon they can't touch. Peace is not softness. Peace is precision. It's focus. It's dominance disguised as detachment. When you move from peace, you don't miss. When you act from calm, your actions carry weight. When you speak from stillness, your words echo longer. That's why emotional mastery wins every war. Because battles are won in the mind before they're ever fought in the world. You don't need to outscream them. You don't need to outprove them. You just need to outlast their chaos. And patience, peace, restraint, that's how you do it. Think about it. The calm mind is untouchable. You can't bait it. You can't rush it. You can't manipulate it. Because peace doesn't react, it redirects. It doesn't absorb chaos, it reflects it. The master of peace studies the war and sees every move before it happens. While others swing wildly, the master strikes once and ends it. That's why stillness is terrifying to the weak. Because your calm exposes their chaos. Your control mirrors their instability. Your silence forces them to confront their own lack of discipline. They hate that. That's why they'll try to provoke you. Because your composure threatens their illusion of control. But remember, you have a choice. You can take the bait, or you can own the game. When you master peace, you become unpredictable. And unpredictability is power. Because if they can't read you, they can't control you. If they can't shake you, they can't manipulate you. If they can't move you, they eventually have to move around you. That's dominance. You don't need their permission to stay calm. You don't need their validation to stay silent. You don't need their understanding to choose peace. Because peace is a solo decision. And once you make it, no one can take it. Here's your reminder. The world doesn't need more fighters. It needs more masters. Masters of emotion. Masters of energy. Masters of themselves. Anyone can start a war. Only a few can control one. And the only people who control war are the ones who control their peace. So start practicing it. Not tomorrow. Not when it's convenient. Now. Practice peace in traffic. Practice peace in conflict. Practice peace in uncertainty. Because peace is not a reaction. It's a rehearsal. You train it daily until it becomes who you are. You don't find peace, you build it. You build it through silence, through self-respect, through restraint. That's the key. Every day, you're going to be tested. Someone will try to pull you out of alignment. Someone will bait you with ego, insult, or chaos. Don't fall for it. When you stay calm, you remind the world that you are not like them. You are not impulsive. You are not reactive. You are not desperate for control. You are control. You are presence. You are the calm that commands a storm. Because true power never rushes. It never yells. It never flinches. It observes. It decides. It dominates. Power isn't loud. It's unbothered. You have a choice. To rule your emotions or be ruled by them. To move with presence or be moved by pressure. To fight every battle or control the entire war. And the one who controls their peace controls everything. Be that one. Be the calm in every storm. Be the stillness that confuses chaos. Be the unbothered presence that commands respect. That's the mark of mastery. That's the height of power. You've learned silence. You've learned patience. You've learned restraint. Now, you've learned peace. You've become the master of yourself. And that means you already control the war. You've built control from chaos. You've built peace from pressure. But now there's one final level, the kind of strength that never breaks, no matter what happens next. You've learned how to rule. Now it's time to endure. Conclusion. You've been trained your whole life to react, to defend, to prove, to show strength. But real strength never has to prove itself. It just is. Every time you respond to provocation, you confirm their control. Every time you stay silent, you confirm your power. That's the difference between the loud and the lethal. The loud need attention. The lethal need nothing. From now on, stop feeding chaos with energy. Stop letting emotions dictate strategy. Your silence will expose their weakness. Your restraint will reveal their desperation. Your stillness will end their noise. You don't need to fight for control. You are control. Be the calm in the storm. Be the stillness that breaks the loud. Be the one who does nothing and wins everything. Because in a world that can't stop reacting, the one who does nothing rules all.